Hey, what's up everyone, Morey Croson here, and today we're going to be talking about why flat feet will make you faster, and we're going to start the video right now. This is the newest edition of the Performance Lab.
Reach your individual goals. You don't want to just talk about straight line speed. We also want to talk about your ability to be quick. We break down your video. Let's make you into the quarterback I know you can become.
Alright, so I'm really excited about this video. I think it's going to give a great opportunity to get a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different points of view, and really hope give you a opportunity to be able to learn a little bit more about the foot and why it's so important. I was actually working with this athlete here today, and we started talking a little bit more about flat feet and how it ends up being like a limitation or something that could end up slowing you down. And I really went more into why it could actually be a huge benefit. And one of the big things that I'll say first is Usain Bolt is flat-footed, right? The greatest sprinter of all time is flat-footed. So flat feet is something that you can't have success with. And how is the best sprinter ever? Somebody that's flat-footed. There's a lot of great basketball players that are flat-footed. There's a lot of great sprinters that are flat-footed. And there's an estimation of about 20 to 25% of people in general are actually flat-footed. Just to give you a few different facts, I'm gonna knock up a couple here, and then we'll get a little bit more into the details. Another thing is having flat feet actually absorbs shock better than having more of an arch, right? Or too much of an arch. There's no evidence to show that flat feet actually cause any type of negative performance. No evidence that supports that, even though there seems to be a lot out there that talk about why, or how flat feet are something you need to correct, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of times the best jumpers and the fastest athletes actually do have flat feet. Another thing is you actually are less injury prone with a flat arch than you are somebody that has a high arch, right? So high arches are actually worse when it comes to potentially injuries than having flat feet. And also having flat feet is actually creates more flexibility within the foot, which also helps with the whole shock absorption. So we'll get more into the details here. And really at the end of the day, right, there could be flat feet that can make you worse. You could have normal arches and that could end up making you worse. You could have high arches, that could end up making you worse, right? So it's not really what you are born with, it's how you utilize that to help you in running faster. The thing about the flat feet or having a low arch that could be beneficial is the flexibility and the ability to shock absorb more effectively. Now, here the athlete on the right has flat feet, right? Watch how well he is able to shock absorb here on the right foot, right? Goes into pronation, kind of drops the arch there, and comes out. That's an excellent job of being able to control your landing phase and then be able to, push off in an effective manner to be able to really, maximize force production and the ability to stabilize and control during foot contact time. Now we're going to go into the left side, right? Same athlete. As he's going down, lands with a much more supinated position to start, and most importantly, goes through a massive amount of pronation, uncontrolled pronation, right? So see how fast he goes through that pronation as he's going and landing there, right? And so, we want to be able to understand how having a flat feet, right? So he's flat feet on both feet, right? It's not like one foot is worse than the other. Both feet are flat-footed. He might be a little bit worse on the left side, but that's not the point. The point is we have to be able to learn how to control our landing in order to make it so then we have the ability to maximize force production and limit the amount of time spent on the ground when it comes to speed, right? This video is about how having flat feet can actually make you faster, right? Because you can absorb better. You have more flexibility. You have more ability to get into a pronated position, right? It's more natural for you to get into a pronated position, which is needed when you are going through plantar flexion or extending off, right? The natural way your foot should be moving as it's hitting the ground is it should be supinated, transition into a pronated position, and then go into extension. Right? And so what happens when you're flat-footed is it's a lot easier for you to get into a pronated spot. Okay? And now you have to be able to build up the muscles to then be able to control that pronation so you don't go into overpronation or lack control within that pronation, right? The pronation is like when your heel drops, right? Or your arch drops. It's like pronation, right? When your arch is coming up, that's supination. Okay, we'll give you a little bit of a diagram here to show that. Okay, now we have athlete on the left, going, landing, doesn't have a flat foot issue, right? But you can see the difference here in the positioning of the leg and in the positioning of the leg, right? So this doesn't have anything to do with flat feet, okay? This has everything to do with, just overall running mechanics, right? Understanding how to be able to utilize, your body to perform at a high level, right? So you have to be able to, when you're here, when you have, more of an arch, and I'm just using this as an example of like the opposite side of the spectrum, right? So somebody that doesn't have, a big problem with, arches, but still doesn't have good landing mechanics, can still get themselves in a position where they're not able to properly push off, and really, is struggling from pronation, right? Can't get to pronation. So as he's going and pushing off, he's really pushing off more on the outside part of the foot and really staying too much in a supinated position. Okay, so he's suffering from not being able to get into pronation, where a person with flat foot is easily getting to pronation, actually getting to pronation on the left side too quickly, which is causing some instability. But athlete on the right is significantly faster, right? And so I don't want you guys to think that you have to be able to correct your flat foot. You don't necessarily have to correct your regular arch, normal arch, or your high arch. Okay, those aren't things that you have to go deep into correcting, right? You have to be able to understand how to utilize that to be able to help you in being successful, right? You can't be, if you have flat feet, you have to spend time on being able to strengthen your arch and how to control and balance through, your feet and absorb through your feet, just the same as somebody who has a normal sized arch, right? So it's not like because you have a normal arch that all things are good and you're going to be able to run faster, be more athletic, or same thing with having flat feet. Okay, but there are potential opportunities within being flat-footed that will help you in getting faster, right? Having more shock absorption should help you out. Having more flexibility in the foot should help you out. And really, there's a lot of elite athletes that have flat feet. All right, that's just what the statistics show. So hopefully this is able to open your eyes to some of the really facts behind having flat feet and really give you the opportunity to hopefully have some more success when it comes to running. We do have exercises, I'll put some of those down below, that will help you in building up your feet, making sure you have good range of motion through there, arches, balance, control through the calves, control through the ankles, but you have to understand what's going on within your feet, within your ankles, in order to really be able to maximize your start, your drive phase, your top end speed, because if you're not connected to your feet, not connected to your ankle, then it's really hard to be able to control and stabilize during those critical landing phases. And when you're starting especially, you have to be able to have a lot of flexibility there. And so that's where, having flat feet can potentially be very beneficial, but you have to understand how to use it. Right? You can't just think that, oh, now because I have flat feet, I'm going to be fast, right? For everybody, and you probably are naturally fast, honestly. If you have flat feet, you probably have a lot of naturalness in speed, but still you have to work on your craft, right? Just because you have a nice natural maybe jumper in basketball doesn't mean you're just immediately going to be the best three-point shooter in the NBA. You got to be able to work on your craft.